Should I do a Deadpool video? I feel like I've been doing a lot of superhero stuff lately, but hey, Solo is coming out, so we can talk about Star Wars. I have to admit something. I've never really been on board for a Han Solo movie. Even way back when the movie was just a rumor floating around, I was rolling my eyes. Why? Because that is not a story that I need told. I've actually been very vocal about my lack of excitement for this movie, but this video isn't going to be about the Han Solo movie. This is about possible future Star Wars spin-off movies and what stories I think they should focus on. As always, this video is based on my opinion, and if you have a different opinion and you want to discuss that opinion, YouTube has provided a comment section for that very purpose. Now, before I get into speculating, let's address what we already know. Obviously, there's episode 9, which will be the final saga entry and likely concluding the story arc surrounding Rey and Kylo Ren. I don't want to get into that movie just yet, but it's a thing that's happening, obviously. There's the Obi-Wan Spin-Off. Wait, is that official? Did Lucasfilms officially announce it, or is it still technically a rumor? I feel like at this point it's basically confirmed, like the rumors for Han Solo before that movie was officially announced, but whatever. There is also the new trilogy of movies that will be helmed by director Rian Johnson, and from what I've looked up, Rian Johnson will attempt to explore a new time period with new characters, telling a brand new story that we've never seen before, as he attempts to, quote, reimagine Star Wars, or at least try to identify what Star Wars is when you don't include characters like Luke and Leia and Han and all of those other characters. Those are the things that we know about. Lucasfilms has been alternating the releases of the saga movies with the anthology movies, so we can speculate that Kenobi, a Star Wars story, will probably come after Episode 9, which releases December 20th of next year. With Episode 9 concluding the sequel trilogy arc, I'd be willing to bet that Rian Johnson's new trilogy will take the place of the saga films and alternate with the spin-offs. So with all that said, what would be good ideas for future anthology films? Let me back up for a moment to talk about why I care little for Solo. Again, it's a movie that tells a story that I don't feel needs to be told. What these anthology films should be doing is not talking about the same characters that we've seen before, but expanding the universe. Star Wars is in a galaxy far, far away, and a galaxy is a pretty damn big place. Now, contrary to popular belief, there are other characters in that galaxy that do things that aren't a Skywalker or Han or whatever. So tell those stories, the ones that are beyond anything that we've seen before in the films. Allow me to suggest a movie that I really, really want to see. A Mandalorian Wars movie. For those that don't know, the Mandalorian Wars were originally mentioned in the video game Knights of the Old Republic. It is, as you can guess, a war involving the Mandalorians against the Republic. Okay, yeah, after Disney acquired the rights to Star Wars, they scrapped all of the extended stories, making them non-canon, which makes KOTOR non-canon. That is until the Rebels series, which is canon. In Season 3, the character of Kanan dropped the line,
"The Jedi won the war with Mandalore."
While it doesn't exactly canonize what we know about KOTOR's version of the war, we do know that there was a war between the Mandalorians and the Jedi. According to KOTOR's version, the war began when Mandalorians started conquering planets on the Outer Rim. The Republic responded and clashed with the Mandalorians, but were getting their asses handed to them. Despite this, the Jedi Council refused to assist the Republic and forbade any Jedi from joining the fight. Now, this didn't sit well with a very particular Jedi named Revan, who disobeyed the Council's commands and led other like-minded Jedi into the war. Thanks to Revan's interference, the Republic won the war, but eventually led to Revan falling to the dark side to become my favorite Sith Lord. Now, you don't have to adopt the story verbatim, but including Revan and the Old Republic would canonize a character and time period that I very much adore. This could not only establish the fan-favorite Old Republic time period, but also leave so much open for future stories to be told that happened around that time. How the Mandalorian Wars led to the Jedi Civil War, how the Jedi Civil War nearly brought the Jedi to extinction, how the Sith Empire attacked the Jedi Temple and took over Coruscant, even stories about certain characters like Darth Malgus, Revan, Carth Onasi, Bastila Shan, Mandalore, Darth Nihilus. Did I say that right? Is Nihilus? Going with it. The possibilities are pretty vast and endless, especially when you consider the fact that you don't have to straight up lift the story. You can cherry pick just like what comic book movies do, and just like what these newer Star Wars movies have already done. Speaking of events that we've already heard about, I would love a movie that tells the story about how the Sith Empire fell. We know from Revenge of the Sith that the Sith once ruled the galaxy. We also know that somewhere along the line, the Sith established the rule of two. Now, during the time of the prequels and the original trilogy, there were only ever two Sith at a time, a master and an apprentice, one to hold the power and the other to crave it. During an episode of Clone Wars, which is also canon, Yoda received a vision of the Sith Lord Darth Bane, the Sith who established said rule of two. It is a rule that was put into place after the Sith, ever the power-hungry individuals, basically destroyed each other, leaving only Darth Bane to straight up declare that there would only ever be two Sith at a time. I want that movie. Show me how the Sith fell. Tell it from Bane's perspective. Hell, make it a Bane movie. He was there to see it all go down, and he survived it to see what came after. Speaking of the Sith, I would love to see an origin movie of the Sith and the Jedi. I'm assuming that the two origins are linked. The first people to tap into the power of the Force, then eventually some began to dabble in the ways of the dark side and clash with the others who followed the light. I'm sure that there have already been comics or novels that told this story, but again, not canon anymore. Maybe they cherry pick some elements or completely reimagine the origin, but I would love a movie that showed us the start of the Jedi and the Sith. Show us the first time someone mentioned the words
dark side of the Force.
Show us how these orders rose up and all that awesomeness. Now, just because I've been covering things that are way in the past doesn't mean that I'm against expanding upon the time period that the original trilogy takes place in. Maybe do a Rogue Squadron movie. All right, so I'm totally stealing this idea from somebody else, by the way. When I came up with the idea to do this video, I watched other videos about future anthology movies that people would like to see to get ideas, and this is one that I thought, ooh. Now, we've seen these guys in the films before, but there's barely any focus on them. Is it a Wedge Antilles movie? Maybe, but it doesn't have to be. They could use him as a way of inspiring the new pilots or something like that. Maybe the new pilots are hotheads and clash with each other, like think Top Gun. Or maybe do a movie about just the standard procedure squad of rebels fighting against the Empire. Make it a legit war movie, so think Black Hawk Down, but with rebels. They go to do something that was supposed to be an in and out easy job, but it goes terribly wrong. And it also doesn't have to be the rebels against the Empire. Maybe it's clone troopers against the Separatists during the Clone Wars. But it's a legit war movie about characters that we haven't really explored before. Personally, I would like a movie that shows how the galaxy handled the early days of the Empire. I don't know what that story would be or who it would follow, but maybe they come up with a completely original story here. Maybe like less action and more drama or something. Just because it's a movie that takes place in the Star Wars universe doesn't mean that it has to have a template for story beats. Not every Star Wars story is about someone wielding a lightsaber or going into a crazy battle. Maybe do something smaller or different. I'm also not totally against the idea of doing spin-offs for known characters either. I really like the idea of an Obi-Wan movie. We all know that following the end of the Clone Wars and the rise of the Empire, Obi-Wan became a hermit on Tatooine to look over Luke and protect him from Vader. But we can also guess that there had to be something that happens during that time. Maybe he wasn't always on Tatooine. Maybe he left his post for a time. Who knows? I really like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan and would love to see more of that character. The only thing I would say to not do is don't have Vader in the movie. Let it be that they never see each other again until that moment on the Death Star in New Hope. Now, speaking of Vader, I also like the idea of a Vader movie. Okay, hear me out, because I realize that the prequels were basically 3 movies about Darth Vader, but is it though? It's more about Anakin Skywalker, and at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I feel like we don't exactly get Darth Vader as much as we get Anakin Skywalker in Vader's armor. All I'm saying is that at some point we go from this Vader to this Vader. And I want a movie that shows that transition take place. We've always heard about Vader hunting down the Jedi, but aside from slaughtering kids in a room, we don't really see it happen in the movies. Maybe Vader goes up against several Jedi that survived Order 66. Or the main confrontation of the film is Vader against Mace Windu. I am of the belief that Windu is totally not dead. Even Samuel L. Jackson believes it.
In my mind, I'm not dead. Jedis can fall incredibly high distances and not die.
I would love to see a gritty Vader movie that not only shows the real transformation of Anakin to Vader while he brutally hunts down Jedi, but having him go up against a grittier Mace Windu, it could work. But then again, maybe Mace Windu could be used better in another movie. What about a Boba Fett movie? So, I think Boba Fett is overrated. Sorry, but I do. He looks cool, and I'm sure he's done some cool stuff, but we've never seen him do anything cool. All he has ever done was follow the Millennium Falcon, then called Vader up to tell him, "Hey man, so Han and the others are going to Bespin if you want to cut them off or something." Then Vader showed up and captured them. Boba Fett doesn't do anything else other than die a bitch-ass death. That being said, doing a movie about Boba Fett doing cool things prior to the original trilogy wouldn't be a bad idea. Have it star that guy that played Jango in Attack of the Clones because, like it or not, Boba is a clone of Jango Fett, and maybe Mace Windu could serve as the antagonist of the movie, seeing as he killed Jango in front of Boba on Geonosis. This is a movie that could have some pretty cool bounty hunter stuff, throw in some Jabba, maybe a cameo from Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, more of those cool Sonic charges, but more importantly, having it be an emotional revenge tale of Boba hunting down the man that killed his father. I'd see that movie. I also like the idea of a Palpatine origin movie. We could see Darth Plagueis, or as I like to believe him to be, Snoke. Okay, so spoiler for The Last Jedi incoming, but Snoke dies, and I don't think he's dead. I think he is Plagueis and will eventually bring himself back. That's why he has all those scars all over himself, because those are all the times that he has brought himself back from the dead. I will believe this theory until proven otherwise, and no one can prove me wrong until Episode 9 comes out and leaves Snoke dead. Palpatine becomes one of the most powerful Sith Lords in history, and it would be a cool story to see how he was recruited, how he was trained, how he became as powerful as he was. There are many, many more possibilities for other movies, like a Yoda movie, which I'm honestly not 100% into. Again, it's not a story I feel is needed, and I honestly don't want an origin story. I don't want there to be a chance for Yoda to be turned into a whiny little teen or something terrible. Yoda's awesome as he is, and had plenty of screen time in not only the prequels, but with the Clone Wars series as well. I don't need more Yoda. Darth Maul? Maybe. Again, he gets a lot of screen time with the Clone Wars and Rebels. Do we need an origin movie? Not really, but I wouldn't be totally against it. General Grievous? So I'm going to admit something. I really love General Grievous as a character. As he was portrayed in the non-canon Clone Wars animated series, he was a badass when he showed up for the first time and decimated Ki-Adi-Mundi's team. And we know from Revenge of the Sith that Grievous is great at killing Jedi, but we never see it. As much as I think he's a cool character with a cool design, he's actually poorly portrayed in the Revenge of the Sith. He does show up in the canon Clone Wars, but he's not great in that either. Maybe he doesn't get his own movie, but is heavily featured in another movie. Remember that Clone Troopers movie that we were talking about earlier? Maybe Grievous shows up in that movie and just wrecks house. An origin movie wouldn't be a bad idea because of his mostly cybernetic design. It does beg the question of not only how did he get that way, but what was he before that? As interesting as it would be, I doubt they actually do it. I only say that because I'm not sure how much of the prequels that the newer movies will cover. It's almost like Lucasfilms wants to separate themselves from the prequels, so I don't know if they'll do a movie that features a character that wasn't that great in the one prequel movie he was in. Besides, his origin is easily something that they could cover in a novel or comic. And that's all I got. But like I said, there are tons of other great ideas. I feel that once we start seeing what Rian Johnson has brewing for his completely new and original era, we'll likely see more stuff spin off from that. There are no limits with this universe, and I want them to explore new waters before we tell more stories about characters that we already know about. Oh, also, Jon Favreau's Star Wars TV series. I forgot all about that. But I guess it's not a movie, so it doesn't really fit with the theme of the video. But hey, it's a Star Wars thing that's happening. But what do you think? What Star Wars spin-off movie would you like to see? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.